Hey everybody, I'm Mr. Giblin. I'm the American Experience teacher over in Apex, and today I'm going to be teaching you about major US cities and major geographical features. And there are tons and tons of major US cities and geographic features, and obviously we're not going to cover them all today. I know you're very, very sad. This is quite traumatizing for you. You really wanted to cover every single major city in the entire United States. I'll give you a second to kind of get over it. Do you feel better now? Good. So we're just going to cover a few major cities and some terrain features that are incredibly important to this class. Okay. So the first thing that you need is your atlas folder. Okay. And I would show you this map. In fact, I will show you it, but there's a terrible glare from the sun. So you won't be able to see what I'm showing you, but you'll see it in a second anyways, so don't worry about it. It's this, the ghost map, the one you can't see. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to show you this presentation that's going to help you understand what you need to do to complete this assignment. All right, so this is my lovely presentation on major cities and geographic features. So let's hit present. So it looks majestic. And this is obviously for 8th grade American Experience. All right, so when you see this map, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff going on. Does this guy expect me to know all this stuff? He's crazy. I'm not going to learn all of that. Well, I expect you to know some of it, okay? So you're going to experience lots of times in our class where your teacher might be saying something like this. The British crossed over the Atlantic Ocean and they landed in Massachusetts or Virginia when they began setting up these colonies. Or you might hear something like this. The Spanish traveled across the Atlantic Ocean and they landed in South America. Or you might hear something like this. You might hear that, well, they used the Mississippi River to trade up and down between the North and South. And it was a very important trade route. Or maybe Lewis and Clark began their journey towards the great unknown and they traveled up across the Missouri River and they traveled all the way across the Rocky Mountains and to the Pacific Ocean. Well, this is where things become very complicated, right? If you don't know where the Atlantic Ocean is, why would that even sound significant? That the British crossed it, or how big it was, or that the Spanish or the French crossed it to begin setting up colonies in the New World. If you don't know where the Mississippi River is, or for example, New Orleans, when we talk about it during the, for example, the War of 1812, then all of a sudden things don't start to click and they become less significant. So what we're talking about today are these major cities important to the content that we want you to learn and these major geographic features. So that map, remember the one that I said was the ghost map that you couldn't see that was in your folder? This is what that map looks like, okay? So you need to go into your Atlas folder and you need to find this map, okay? Once you've found it, go get yourself some colored pencils or some markers or some crayons or whatever, something to color with. You need probably several colors. And then once you have done that, go get yourself something to write with, a pen or a pencil. And what I recommend you do first is you label things, okay? Because you don't want to end up like Mr. Giblin, who labeled things after he colored, and then was like, but now there's no room to write the name of this place. Okay. And if you do that, you end up like me, draw arrows. It's kind of like what I did. But if you label everything first, then it makes it a little bit easier on you later. Okay. So now that you have your map and you have some instructions, get drawing. Okay. If you go ahead and go into the assignment, it lists exactly the things you need to label and draw. Okay. So you're going to draw for a while. It's going to take you a little bit of time. 1 hour later, boom! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness, this is so lovely. Who did this? Did you, one of you do this? It looks great. So this is the one that I drew, okay? And trust me, you can do better than this. I had children jumping on me while I was trying to draw all this. I almost failed eighth grade art class, not because I didn't try. I tried super hard, okay? But I am not an artist, okay? So I know you can do much better than me. But, anyways, this is going to give you an idea of what your map should look like. So, follow my cursor. You see it up here, kind of scrolling back and forth, okay? So, you want to label the 5 Great Lakes, okay? So remember that acronym I told you, HOMES, okay? And also remember, use your resources. Okay, you got an iPad in front of you. Don't be like, oh, I don't know what the Great Lakes names are, or I don't know where these states are. Use the Google, okay? The Google is super duper powerful and very helpful. Just type in Great Lakes map and then start copying this stuff in. Okay. If you know it by heart, awesome. But if you don't, use what you got. Okay. So once you finish the Great Lakes, you want to label the 4 states. There's 5 states total, but you want to label the 4 states that surround Indiana. Okay. You want to know that because, hey, we're from Indiana, so you should probably know what states surround us. And you're going to have to convince your teacher of this, but for my class, if you color Michigan red or gray, I will think it's hilarious because I'm an Ohio State fan and I might give you extra credit. Okay. So think about that. All right. Also, once you've kind of labeled those 5 states and colored them, label some mountain ranges. We have 2 major mountain ranges in the United States. We have the Appalachian Mountain Ranges, okay, and that's on the East Coast right here. And then on the West Coast, kind of Western Plains areas, we have the Rocky Mountains, okay. So you want to label those and kind of color an outline of where they are. Some other things you need to do is you need to label some rivers, okay. So right up here, see this right here where my cursor is? This is the Hudson River. So you want to draw and label this river. Over here by Ohio, that's the Ohio River. I know, crazy, right? And it basically follows Ohio's state line, Indiana state line, and Illinois state line and goes into the Mississippi River. Ah, great segue, the Mississippi River. So you want to start this Mississippi River all the way up here, okay, in Minnesota land, and follow it down the states, and it goes all the way into Louisiana and out New Orleans, okay? And then the last river you need to draw is the Missouri River, okay? And there's a big surprise for you too, okay? The Missouri River flows through Missouri. Crazy, right? And then it follows up the state lines, okay, crossing past Nebraska, going through South and North Dakota, and then into Montana. So those are your rivers that you need to draw. And then we also have 2 major oceans that surround North America, okay? If you go to California, you would see the Pacific Ocean, okay? If you're on the East Coast, you have the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. And then lastly, another big body of water. You have the Gulf of Mexico. Okay. This is a big body of water between Florida and Texas down here. So those are all the bodies of water and the mountain ranges you need to cover, the states, the lakes. Okay. But there's more. You also need to cover some extremely important cities to American history. Okay. So, way up here in the north, you have Boston. Okay. We'll spend a lot of time talking about Boston for the first 9 weeks. Then you have New York City, and you have Philadelphia right here in Pennsylvania. And it's also right over here by New Jersey. And then we have Washington, D.C., our capital, okay? And that is between Maryland and Virginia, not to be confused with the state Washington, which is way over here, okay? And then you need to label Charleston, South Carolina, and we specifically say South Carolina because there's a couple Charlestons that can get kind of confusing. And then after you label that one, you need to label the last one right here, which is New Orleans. Okay. So once you've labeled and colored all of this stuff and it looks all nice and pretty, you are done. But you have one more step. Get this bad boy out and take a picture of it and submit it to Canvas. If for some reason you've lost your lovely Atlas folder, I've also provided you with a digital link, okay? Obviously, we prefer you to do this on pen and paper because it looks a lot nicer than you scribbling stuff hastily on Notability. But if that is your only option, we understand. All right. That concludes our little lesson on the major cities and geographic features of the United States that I expect you to put on this map. Good luck. And there's the record button. It's always nice to know where that is so that you can stop the video. Oh, hey, you know what? Since I couldn't find the stop record button on time, maybe I should tell you a joke. What kind... Wait, there we go. Okay. What kind of shoes do spies wear? I'll give you a second to think about it. Some Jeopardy noises. Do 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 bum ba bum 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 bum. You know the answer? Say it with me. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Sneakers. Oh, I knew you got it. Good job. All right. Have a great day.